Most people are familiar with the story of the lost son or the prodigal son. Many of us know someone who has inherited money and who squandered it and lost it all. I had a friend, a colleague who worked with me, and he was 19 years old. He inherited some money from his father and he went out to buy the fastest car that he could find. It was a Nissan Skyline at that stage. 2 weeks later he wrapped it around a pole and he was lucky to walk away alive. In the story of the prodigal son, the same thing happens. The boy gets all the money from his father and he goes off and he spends it on wine, women and fast cars. Okay, maybe not fast cars in those days, but you get the point. But there's something interesting that Jesus is trying to tell us in this parable. And for me, the key is in the role of the older son. That's something that I've always wondered about, because you wonder why he is in the story at all. What is the role of the older son? Let's read it. It's in Luke chapter 15 and from verse 11. I'm going to read from the New International Version. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the youngest son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am, starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead, and he's alive again. He was lost, and he's found.'" Now, if this story was about the younger brother going off and squandering all his possessions and then coming back, returning home with nothing to show, it could have ended as a beautiful story with a father's acceptance, with a feast and with a celebration. But the story doesn't end there. The story actually includes the older brother. And that's what got me thinking. What is his role? And I think the role of the older brother becomes clear when we actually go back to verse 1 and 2 of the same chapter. Before we go there, let me just mention what's going on. Let me just paint the scene. The younger brother has taken all his money, his half of the possessions, he's squandered it, he's wasted it, and he comes back home with nothing to show. He's actually coming back home as a zero. But when he comes home, his father is accepting him and welcoming him as a hero. He gets the ring, he gets the sandals, he gets the robe, and the feast. The fattened calf gets killed for him. Everything gets done in His honor. And it's a beautiful picture of how Jesus and God receives us when we come to Him. Doesn't matter how we've sinned, doesn't matter how far we've gone. When we come back, He's ready to accept us, and He can't wait to run out to us and to invite us in to a feast. And that's very, very beautiful. But now the older brother comes and he sort of leaves a bad taste in the mouth because he is not happy with all this. And as I said, I think that the key to this is in verse 1 and 2. Let's look at verse 1 and 2. Verse 1, now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathered around to hear him. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. I think this is the point Jesus was making. He was telling this parable in response to the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. He said, you know what? God is so happy to receive these sinners because they are like the lost son. But He's also giving a dig at them, saying, maybe you guys are like the older brother. And the problem with the older brother was not that he was disobedient or that the older brother was not helping the father. In fact, he was. The problem with the older brother is that his heart was not at the same place as the father. He did not share the father's heart. He did not have that close relationship with the father, even though he obeyed him and worked for him. When the father was glad and excited when the younger son came back, the older son was upset. He became angry. He did not share the father's joy. He did not share the father's compassion or the love that the father showed to the younger son. So let me ask you today, where are you? Are you the younger son? Do you need to come back to God? Do you need to come back and say, I have sinned against you, I'm not worthy to be your son? But you know He will accept you with joy and with gladness. Or are you maybe like the older son? You've been a Christian for many years, and you do what's right, and you're obedient, and you serve. But do you share the Father's heart? That's the one thing that is needed. That's the one thing that God is looking for, is for sons and daughters who share His heart and His passion. May God bless you.